So tonight we're going to continue with the Ark of the Covenant. And last week we learned all about its purpose, its contents. I didn't mention about the crown exactly, but that represents royalty because it represents Christ, and he is the King of Kings. We're going to talk about the ark and its movements. So, when they were wandering in the wilderness, and even before they were wandering in the wilderness, when they were making their way to Kadesh Barnea to go into the Promised Land, they had to transport this Ark of the Covenant. But you got to realize nobody was allowed to see it but the high priest once a year. So, this is the formula that God came up with. The high priest would go in and cover the Ark of the Covenant with several objects, but with a blue covering finally, which denotes divinity. And then they would cover all the other pieces of furniture. And the sons of Kohath, they were Levites, the Kohathites. It was their job to transport the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant would go out first. But I want to tell you about the cloud. It says, on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, this is Numbers 9:15, the cloud covered the tabernacle. And at evening, there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until morning. It doesn't say it was fire, okay? So it was always, the cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. And when the cloud was lifted up from the tabernacle, then the children of Israel journeyed. And in the place where the cloud abode, there they pitched their tent. So they were being completely guided by this supernatural presence of Christ. And when it says it was like a fire, that was the Shekinah glory. Doesn't say it was a fire. Most people will say they were guided with fire by night. No, the Shekinah glory guided them. Oh, something else about these Kohathites who were transporting the ark. They had to be between the ages of 30 and 50. If they were younger than 30, they couldn't serve. If they were older than 50, they couldn't. And the reason why I believe, well, Jesus started his ministry at 30. I think it has to do with maturity. And then 50, well, hey, this is heavy work. He's not going to have somebody who's over 50 carrying this heavy gold around. So he set those limits, but they could not touch the ark or they would die. This is Numbers 10:32 through 36. Numbers 10:32 through 36. And this is telling about when they left Sinai, about how the ark went out before them. It says, and they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey. And this is what I want you to pay attention to. And the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them 3 days' journey, searching out a place of rest for them. And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. And it came to pass, when the ark was set forward, this is what Moses said. Rise up, Lord, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee from before thee. So he had this idea that when the ark was going before them, they didn't have to worry about enemies, because they had God, Christ, going out before them. They didn't have to worry about that. And then it says in verse 36, and when it rested, he said, return, O Lord, unto the many thousands of Israel. So Moses is clearly saying that the ark is the Lord. So now we're going to go to Joshua. And so what happened when they finally wandered around for 40 years in the wilderness and they finally get back to the Jordan? When Moses died, God turned over that authority to Joshua, which in Hebrew, Joshua is the name. You translate that to Greek, it's Jesus. It's the same name. Yeshua, it's the same name. This is Joshua chapter 2. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim, that's the name of the place where they were staying there, on the east side of the Jordan, 2 men to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, even Jericho." And they went and came into the harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. Well, why do you think they went to a harlot's house? It's obvious, okay? The Bible doesn't candy coat these people. They went to a harlot's house because you know what they're going to do there. Yes.
What's a harlot?
It's a whore.
Oh.
You're so young, you don't know the Bible terminology. Okay, and it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country." And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, "Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country." Now she's got a choice here what she can do. And she does the right thing. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, "2 men came to me, and I sent them out. They're already going out." So then they go out to chase after him. She sent them on a wild goose chase. And the men pursued after them. And before they were laid down, she came up to them upon the roof, and she said to the men, "I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you." They had a reputation. "For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites." This happened after they left Egypt, "that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed." See, God is going ahead of them and winning their battles for them. "And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. The Lord your God, he is a God of heaven above and in the earth beneath." This woman has faith. Okay? And it's because of all of the miracles that God had done. It brings people to faith. The miracles that Jesus did brought people to faith because these things can't happen. But God is not a respecter of persons. It doesn't matter that she's a harlot. It doesn't matter if you're a king. God wants faith, and he's going to honor her faith. "Now, therefore, I pray you," she's saying to these 2 spies, "I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed kindness unto you, you will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a pledge of faithfulness. And that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver them from death." So she knew their town was doomed, because when these Israelites go places, people die. Because God's ahead of them and he's going to protect them. And what's really nice is that she's not just worried about herself. She's worried about her mom and her dad and her relatives and their kids and all of it. She wants to save her whole family. And the men answered her, "Our life for yours, if ye utter not this our business." They're saying to her, "Yes, you have our pledge, but don't tell anybody about what we're doing." And she didn't. "And it shall be, when the Lord has given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee." Then she let them down by a cord, and this ends up being a scarlet cord, through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. Now you got to think about, which we're going to get to next week, when they go into Jerusalem, the walls come tumbling down, right? She lives on the wall. So you got to know that that one piece of wall is going to be left. "And she said unto them, Get you up into the mountains, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days until the pursuers return, and afterward you may go your way. And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of this thine oath which thou hast made us swear. Behold, When we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window. She let them down on a scarlet cord. And what they're saying is, when we come to destroy the land, put that cord out so everyone knows where you live, and that place will be spared. And it was. This woman ends up being in the line of the kings. Another important point is, they had to swim across the Jordan both ways. They had to swim across the Jordan to get to Jericho and do all this spying and all this. And then they hid in the mountains for 3 days, and then they had to swim back. This is Joshua chapter 3. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim, it's called an acacia grove, and came to Jordan, and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. And it came to pass after 3 days that the officers went through the host. And they commanded the people, saying, when ye see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then ye shall remove from your place and go after it. Now, remember I told you the Kohathites were the ones that carried the ark? But this is a special mission. And when there's something special where a miracle is going to happen, he has the priest carry it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it of about 2,000 cubits by measure. That's about half a mile. Think about that much space. Think how far half a mile is. It's so long. That ye may know the way by which ye must go, for ye have not passed this way before. But let me tell you a couple things about that. First of all, it was showing respect to the ark, keeping their distance. But there was something else. Think about 2.25 million people over here, and the ark's right here. How are the people way back here in the camp going to even see it? They can't. It has to get way out ahead of them. Half a mile. Now they can see it. Now they know they're supposed to move. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day I will begin to magnify thee in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. And Joshua said, verse 10, ye shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, and all the other ites that are in Canaan. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth passes over before you into Jordan. And it came to pass when the people removed from their tents to pass over Jordan, and the priest bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and they that bare the ark were come into Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bare the ark were dipped into the brim, for the Jordan was overflowing at this time, because it was a time of harvest, that the waters which came down from above stood and rose up on a heap. So this is what happened. When they crossed the Red Sea, it's static. It's not moving. It's just a sea. So God departed the waters like this, and they went through on dry ground. But this is a river. You can't just part it because it keeps flowing. So what happened when the priests' feet hit that water, which they had to have a lot of nerve to do this, to just step into the water, one side, the side where the water was coming down this way, it started piling up. And this part, where the priests were standing in the middle and the children of Israel walked on by, was dry ground, which is impossible. But you got to think about these priests who are in the middle. Think about it. The water keeps getting higher and higher and higher and higher. It was just built up on one side. That had to be kind of scary. It took a lot of faith to just stand there and be there. So one point I want to make is, who went in first? The Lord. He went in first. He was the first goer and stayed there till the whole group had passed by. And the priests that bare the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on the dry ground in the midst of Jordan, and all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over Jordan. And then chapter 4, verse 2, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man. Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, pass over before the ark of the Lord your God in the midst of the Jordan, and take you up every man a stone upon your shoulder, according to the number of the tribes. So you got to think, if you're carrying something heavy, it's going to be less stress to carry it on your shoulder. It'd be hard on your back to just carry it like this. But they were big stones. That's the point I'm trying to make, because he said carry them on your shoulder. And you'll see why when you see what they do with these stones. Okay, so they carried them out, and they took them over to the place where the children of Israel had crossed over to, which was called Gilgal. And they set the stones there. They just set them there. Then, verse 9, and Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the Ark of the Covenant stood. It says, and they are there unto this day. I wish somebody could do some exploring and find those 12 stones in there. I really do. For the priests which bear the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished, that the Lord commanded Joshua to speak unto the people according to all that Moses commanded Joshua, and the people hasted over. And it came to pass, this is verse 18, when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord were come up out of the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up onto the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan, just came back. As soon as their feet came out, and it says it came back to overflowing the banks, just as it had been before. Verse 19, and the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and encamped in Gilgal, in the east border of Jericho. They were really getting close to Jericho here. I'm sure Jericho was getting pretty scared. And those 12 stones, which they took out of the Jordan, did Joshua set up in Gilgal. So he made like a monument out of these 12 stones to mark what God had done for them. Now Joshua, all by himself, set up the 12 stones inside where the Ark of the Covenant stood, in the Jordan. These were the ones that the 12 guys, one from each tribe, took and set up. And so he made a monument, a memorial, and this is what he said about it. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what means these stones? Then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land, for the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you, until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us until we were gone over, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord that is mighty, that ye might stand in awe of the Lord your God forever. So what I want to glean from this for us is that the Lord was the first in as the ark, and he was the last to leave. He took care of his people. And the lesson for us is that we need to follow his lead. He's going to take care of us. You don't have to worry about that. And if you think about this Jordan, how he was the first in, and then once everybody went out, then he left. He was taking care of his people, and he's taking care of us, his people, today. Okay, that's my message.